Antony will surprise people next season. More goals, more assists, more man of the match performances incoming. There's been improvement from the Brazilian winger over the months that he's been in the Premier League, but I expect him to be even better next season. Today we're going to have a look at Antony, we're going to have a look at Manchester United, Scott McTominay, but also dive into the big game at Anfield, Liverpool versus Arsenal, game of two halves where both teams dominated certain parts of the game, but unfortunately Arsenal lost two key points in their quest to win the Premier League. So let's dive into the first game that we're going to talk about today. Of course, Manchester United facing Everton on Saturday in the early kickoff. Everton set up in a 4-4-2 shape. I was expecting them to play a 4-5-1, but of course suspensions to Decore meant that they went back to the traditional Sean Dyche 4-4-2. I think one of the big things with Manchester United when facing these deep, compact blocks is that sometimes they struggle when getting the ball in the final third. Too many times we see United slow and ponderous in the final third, looking to rotate the ball backwards, back through the defence, and then looking to attack forward. What I absolutely loved about Manchester United's performance against Everton was that they went long at times. Man United created more from long passes than they've done in a single game under Erik ten Hag against Everton. 4 big opportunities coming from long balls over the top of Everton's defence. Sean Dyche gets a lot of criticism for his side sitting deep and defending. I like it. What they don't get compliments for is their high pressure high up the pitch, and that's been a frequent thing that we've seen under Everton when teams are building up out from the back when Sean Dyche has been manager. Manchester United, of course, playing their 4-2-3-1 that we've come to expect under Erik ten Hag, with Scott McTominay moving to more into the advanced position and Bruno actually dropping into a number 6 position at times. So in terms of playing out from the back, Manchester United, of course, have massively improved this season. But at times, teams squeeze them high and win the ball back relatively easily. What Everton did, they squeezed high in their 4-4-2 shape. They narrowed their midfield 4 and they played their defensive line reasonably high. For Manchester United, of course, the way to get round this could be playing through the lines, could be, overloads in the defensive line, or simply playing the ball over the top for the wingers to make those attacking runs in behind the defence. And that, for me, is where Antony absolutely starred for Manchester United. His movement behind the defence was absolutely fantastic, and it's something that I've wanted from his game. I think at times at United, Antony is too keen to drop deep and receive the ball to feet. What I want to see more from wingers is having that duality, having that triple threat in a sense of spinning in behind, dropping deep, but also moving inside to receive in between the lines. Having that kind of Saka threat. Saka's able to receive wide, receive deep, receive inside. And what we're seeing from Antony in recent weeks is more variation in his game. What I loved about Everton was his ability to spin in behind, so Man United can find him with those long balls. The next thing that Antony needs to improve to get to a position where I believe he will be next season, goals, assists galore, is improving his decision making in the final third. So let's take a look at those 3 big opportunities that Antony got after making great runs in behind the Everton defence. So the first opportunity came on around 21 minutes. Jordan Pickford with a long ball from Everton out of the back, looking to win that second ball and get in the United half. As we kind of had a look from a tactical perspective, Everton's front 2 are pressurising the ball along with their midfield 4, very aggressive with their fullbacks as well. What this meant for United is there was massive amounts of space in behind the Everton defence. What I liked as well about Manchester United, they're very composed on the ball. As you can see at the moment with this sort of screenshot, Bruno Fernandes is more of in a deeper position than Scott McTominay. Arguably you'd say that Scott McTominay would be holding midfield when United had possession, but in fact it was different. Bruno dropped in and Scott McTominay played a little bit higher as more of an 8 supporting Marcel Sabitzer. So as the play moves forward, Manchester United win the first contact, very, very important. Win the second contact with Tyrell Malacia, I thought had an excellent game. He looked inside to Bruno Fernandes. At this position, Everton have got a bit of a problem. They've got no pressure on the football for Bruno Fernandes to stop him playing forward. Of course, they are pressing with their 2 strikers, but their midfield are a little bit delayed. You can see Onana on the back of Marcel Sabitzer and Gana Gueye dropping on Scott McTominay. And I think that was the beauty of Manchester United's system with Bruno dropping into this number 6 area, that he had space to play forward. Obviously, Bruno's got the passing range, the ability, the space as well in this game, which was vitally important for Bruno to get his head up and play the forward pass to Antony. Then Godfrey misjudges the flight of the ball. Antony is in behind. In this situation, what we've got to look at is the support play for Antony. Marcus Rashford is at the bottom of the shot, making the move from the left wing. Antony very much in the final third has been a little trigger happy. Needs to get his head up a lot more and look for his teammates. One of the big things that will take him to that next level is adding assists and chances created. He's averaging just 1 chance created per game in the Premier League this season. That quite frankly is nowhere near the standards of last season at Ajax in the Champions League. And that is the level that Antony can get to. Of course, Antony gets in behind. From this position, Antony of course has got, 2 options. Is he going to get his head up and look for his teammate on the back post, or is he going to look to shoot? For me, if he's going to look to shoot, he needs to cut inside more, be more aggressive, getting into a more, central position to open up more of the goal. If he's going to take a shot from a wider area, there is a smaller position of the goal to aim at. The keeper's going to be covering a lot more of the goal. So if he is going to make the decision, the early decision now, to get a shot away, needs to cut across Ben Godfrey's path to get into a better position. But for me in this situation, he's got to look for Marcus Rashford. Rashford is in a great position. Antony has continued his run into the wide part of the box. He's got to look for the ball, either with the outside of the left foot early in this position, or alternatively slowing himself down. We know that Marcus Rashford has got the beating of Will Keane in terms of pace, so looking for that early ball could be a really good option. Alternatively, if he carries, again, you could look for a simple pass across the defence for Marcus Rashford to slide it in. But what I mentioned before about him not getting into a good shooting opportunity, if he cuts a little bit earlier, not only could he potentially pull James Tarkowski over again, opening up more space for Marcus Rashford to operate in, could even make the inside run Marcus Rashford if Antony takes the attention of Tarkowski, but as well he's going to be in a better position to shoot on goal. Big thing for there, Antony's making an early decision when he's been played in behind. What's he going to do? Is he going to go for goal? Is he going to find his teammate? But as well, getting his head up in this position needs to be far better in terms of understanding Marcus Rashford's movements when he's got possession of the football, because it's going to lead to more assists and more goals for Manchester United. Let's take a look at the second big chance for Antony. This, of course, came from David De Gea. I've never really had any problem with David De Gea's long game with the ball at his feet. I think his kicking is very, very good from a long perspective. I think it's more when he's under pressure, when looking for the passes either in between the lines or to centre-backs or full-backs is where I've got the issue, and where someone like David Raya needs to come to Man United to really change that. But David De Gea, good with the ball at his feet, finds Antony in behind. This is another situation where Antony has to go across the man. He's beaten Ben Godfrey for pace, receiving the ball. He's got to go across. Number one, that brings a red card into play. But number two, creates a better shooting opportunity for Antony. This is another situation where I feel Antony's got to make an early decision. This time, of course, there's no supporting teammates around him, which means he's probably got to go for goal, which makes it even more important for him to go across the man, take Ben Godfrey out of the game, which will open up more of the goal for himself to finish. In this instant, he takes this is a bad touch with his chest. He tries to then bring the ball down, miscontrols that as well, which allows Ben Godfrey to get back, because Antony's a little bit off balance now. You can see he's a little bit off balance with his stance, and therefore, of course, Ben Godfrey comes in with a really good challenge. But if Antony comes across a lot earlier, better opportunity for him. Easy finish with the left foot past, of course, Jordan Pickford. And let's move on to the next situation. Antony in behind again. This comes up from some really good play for Manchester United. I thought they were excellent out of the back, especially in that first half. They had more shots in the first half against Everton than they've managed in the Premier League since 2004. Great statistics. This comes from United playing out from the back. Again, Bruno Fernandes on the ball in a deep position. What we want to see when Casemiro's not fit is exactly this. Again, I'd prefer that United had a balanced squad with more than one defensive midfielder, but beggars can't be choosers at this point in the season. The play's good. Forward pass up to Marcus Rashford. Great hold-up play. Little layoff to Jadon Sancho. Combines with Malacia, and then Malacia with a superb ball over the top. I want to see more of Tyrell Malacia in the first team. I think he's a little bit sharper than Luke Shaw is at times. Sometimes Luke Shaw takes far too long on the ball to make decisions. What I like about Malacia, and yes, he has some flaws in his game. He's not as complete as Luke Shaw, but he's quite quick with the brain. This pass is absolutely fantastic over the top for Antony. 3 big situations that's created by the Brazilians' want and movement in behind. I think we've got to give him credit here. But again, reading the tactical situation like Antony needs to do. Marcus Rashford is a support player. He's in good support. It's a 2v2. You should be using your teammate. Again, Antony's in a pretty wide position. So he should have his head up in this position looking for his teammates. He does slow himself down in this position just outside the box, but I don't know if the understanding is quite there with Antony and Marcus Rashford. If I was Erik ten Hag, I'd be getting them to work on this in training over and over again, because this should be a goal for United. Both players aren't quite on the same wavelength. Where Antony kind of checks in, he could instantly look for the ball in behind the defence. You can see Rashford is pointing where he wants the pass, but Antony takes another touch and waits slightly too long, and by the time that he can play it, unfortunately Marcus Rashford's offside, so he has to go for the shot, which might be in his mind already. What I want to see from Antony from that position is, you know, being a little bit quicker, little check inside, little dart inside onto his stronger left foot, then clipping the ball to the back stick for Rashford to finish. Rashford's improved massively with his head this season. Scored more goals with his head than he's managed in any Premier League campaign so far. Antony needs to be finding him. So what I like about the Brazilian, again, the movement's been very good in this match, but the decision-making needs to be slightly better in terms of what he's doing. And we can see that with the Marcus Rashford goal. Again, another opportunity created by a long pass. We can see Everton's block, their mid-block, really high. Again, you've got massive pace advantage with Marcus Rashford up against Seamus Coleman in this moment. Great ball from Lisandro over the top. But I think from this position, again, Marcus Rashford gambles with with Seamus Coleman failing to control. But I like that. Heads up football, crosses with his weaker left foot straight away to Anthony Martial to fire home. And that's something that Antony needs to be a little bit better at, is understanding when his teammates are in better positions to put the ball in the back of the net. And of course, Anthony Martial has got ice in his veins, puts the ball past Jordan Pickford. He's been directly involved in 12 goals against Everton in 16 games during his time in the Premier League, his favourite opponent. But of course, Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial have combined for 21 goals for Manchester United, which is more than any other duo currently at the Old Trafford club. So Manchester United looking for those long passes to create chances, with a great avenue to get behind the Everton defenders and create really good goal scoring opportunities. But I think one of the other things that I really enjoyed about Manchester United was that kind of Bruno dropping deep and then Scott McTominay attacking the inside channel. I think one of the other big things for Antony again at Ajax was he had Steven Berghuis inside him at all times, where at times we see Antony kind of stop on the ball, which frustrates certain fans, but it's to allow his teammates to join in, to dominate possession in the final third. What I liked about Scott McTominay is we saw him be really aggressive attacking the inside channel, and it wasn't quite found by Antony, but it was found by other teammates, and of course led to his goal. So let's take a quick look at that goal, and I thought one of the best Scott McTominay performances in recent years. So here we've got the kind of tactical setup that we mentioned a few times for Manchester United, the two centre-halves, Bruno Fernandes in the number 6 position, Sabitzer at number 10, and Scott McTominay playing as that kind of free 8. In this move, focus on Scott McTominay, a really good underlap that creates a great opportunity. Bruno Fernandes, of course, in the quarterback role, looking for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, moving in behind the defence. Wan-Bissaka receives, the entire Everton defence is pulled back, as well as Dwight McNeil, which leads to a massive opportunity to make a second line run, running off the midfield past the defence. And Scott McTominay does this really, really well in this example. As Aaron Wan-Bissaka carries back, Scott McTominay goes the opposite way, spins in behind the defence. As we mentioned, Dwight McNeil and Ben Godfrey have been pulled out by Aaron Wan-Bissaka, opening up a massive space on the right-hand side, opening up a massive space on the left-hand side of the Everton defence. McTominay waltzes in, beats Tarkowski with a dribble and tries to find Sabitzer with the cutback. Again, no one from Manchester United is really attacking the penalty spot, which I'd say is something they can improve, but really good movement from Scott McTominay. And of course, that led to the goal for Manchester United, a well-crafted goal out of the back, starting with Lisandro Martinez, working it to Tyrell Malacia. Great play from Sabitzer, that lateral movement to a wide area to receive and break the Everton lines. Good combination play, looking for the feet of Marcus Rashford. Rashford out of his feet to Wan-Bissaka, getting into the final third. From this position at times, Man United are static in certain moments. We're not there at a point where we see the fluidity that we saw at Ajax, with underlaps, with third-man runs, with combination play, but it's starting to be there with United. So Wan-Bissaka receives in the final third, carries, looks for Scott McTominay into feet. He looks for Marcus Rashford in space just outside the defence. At this moment, of course, Everton are absolutely on it. They're going to be blocking that Marcus Rashford shot like their life depends on it, which draws players in, consequently opening up more space for Scott McTominay as the ball's worked back out to the right-hand side. And I think one of the big things with Jadon Sancho, he has that ability to spot that inverted run or spot that underlapping run to perfection. He does that, finds Scott McTominay in a very similar position that we just saw McTominay, and McTominay fires across the goalkeeper, giving Manchester United the lead. A fantastic move that United played out from the back. Great transition from left to right, then attacking the inside channel. Great pass from Jadon Sancho in behind the defence to give Man United that opening goal of the game. But really good play from Scott McTominay. And I'd say one of Scott McTominay's best performances in a Man United shirt, playing as a kind of deep lying 8, then moving into the advanced areas inside the penalty area. Scott McTominay is on the best goal scoring run of his entire career. Scored against Everton, created 3 chances, created 1 big chance with that cross from the right hand side to the back stick for Bruno, who should have scored. 2 shots, 2 out of his 5 dribbles completed, and he won 2 out of his 3 tackles. Really good performance, and he's showing some really good stuff. And I'd quite like to see Casemiro with Bruno Fernandes deep, and maybe Scott McTominay operating as kind of a deep lying 8 that's going to start low and finish high. Great performance from Manchester United, who continue to dominate games. Bruno, again, we've got to give him a shout out for his ability on the ball. Most touches, most chances created again, most passes completed in the match, most big chances created in the game. 4 shots. Just a superb performance from Bruno. And again, you can see with his heat map how deep he is operating at the moment. And I think that's getting the best out of Manchester United. Before we move on to Liverpool versus Arsenal in the Premier League, just a little injury update for Marcus Rashford. Of course, he went off clutching his groin against Everton, but he posted this on Instagram on Monday morning. Plenty more left in the tank. For me, I think that's good news. I think Marcus Rashford, was it the Barcelona game where he went off injured right at the end and then played against Newcastle in the League Cup final in the next game? So I'd expect him to probably be back for Sevilla. A muscle injury with his groin usually can be stretched out. Hopefully it's not nothing long term, so hopefully he'll be back for the next Man United game, because he's been so good this season, directly involved in more goals this season than he's managed in any other campaign in his professional career. In terms of the race for the top 4, I think Manchester United and Newcastle are currently in commanding positions. Both have got a game in hand on Aston Villa. Yes, Unai Emery's Aston Villa and Tottenham. Of course, I think Liverpool are probably out the race now, 12 points behind Manchester United. In terms of relegation, Forest, Leicester and Southampton currently sit in the bottom 3 positions, but Everton just sitting above that on goal difference. I think Everton should be all right. I think they showed me enough in recent games, the draws with Chelsea and Tottenham, and a fairly decent performance against Man United. They've got some good games coming up. Fulham, Palace, Newcastle, Leicester City. Have got to be games where Sean Dyche's side get points to stay up. But let's now move our attention to the top of the table with Arsenal, one of the best games of the Premier League season. At Anfield, the 2-2 draw, a real game of 2 halves where Arsenal came out absolutely flying in the first half of the game. Their positional game, the U-bend in midfield, caused Liverpool so many problems. In terms of tactics, Liverpool went back to the 4-3-3 after the 4-4-2 that they played against Manchester City and were really opened up. And Arsenal, of course, stuck with their 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 hybrid shape. One of the concerns going into the game for Liverpool was how they were going to deal with the U-bend in midfield. Partey, Zinchenko and Odegaard and Granit Xhaka caused a lot of problems in the first half. Again, Liverpool's kind of aggressive approach. They're going to go man-to-man deep in midfield. Henderson and Jones are going to jump, which leaves a situation where Fabinho has got to deal with 2 players. The problem for Liverpool in that first half is that Arsenal were finding the passes to their wide players. And one of the concerns for me going into this game with how Liverpool would they control that middle section of the pitch when Arsenal have beaten their press. The big thing when playing Liverpool, drawing them one side and then attacking down the other side, causes them a lot of problems, and of course that led for the first goal for Gabriel Martinelli. Right, let's dive into the tactics and analysis. This is the first goal that Arsenal scored in the game through Martinelli. One thing we mentioned on the tactics board: draw Liverpool over to one side, expose them on the wing on the other side, then hit them back through the middle. You're going to create good opportunities. As we can see, Liverpool are crowding the ball. They're pressing as they do under Jurgen Klopp. They like to follow the play. They like to follow their press. They like to get super aggressive. But for a positional team like an Arsenal and Manchester City, it can be exploited with some good play. So we've picked the play up with Arsenal with the ball on the left-hand side with Granit Xhaka in possession. You know, that U-bend causing Liverpool problems. It overloads their defensive midfielder. It overloads their midfield. So what Arsenal do after they've drawn the 4 players over, they look to switch the play back through centre-back. Rob Holding carries out, feeds Ben White, and now there is a bit of a problem. As you can see, Liverpool's team is still stagnated a little bit to the right-hand side of the pitch, which opens up massive space for a simple forward pass into Saka. What you'd really want is your left central midfielder being in more of an aggressive position to block that passing lane. Because, of course, it breaks Liverpool's midfield line, and then there is a big problem, where now you've got a 5-on-5 on the Liverpool backline, or even a 5-on-4, considering that Fabinho has been taken out of the game. What you want to do there is carry inside. This is very reminiscent of Manchester City's goal, where Mahrez cuts inside, links with Gundogan, who links with Grealish, and of course squares it for Julian Alvarez. What we could see here is a real problem as Saka comes inside and looks for Odegaard, that now you're in a position where you've got massive problems. Do you jump out on Odegaard, which opens up space in behind Konate? Do you drop off and allow Odegaard to switch the play, where again you've got a 2v1 on Trent Alexander-Arnold? It's all types of problems. This is how you catch Liverpool out at the moment. And I think one of the big things is their midfield legs are just nowhere near the levels they were when they were one of the best teams in the world. Wijnaldum is a massive miss. Liverpool still haven't replaced his legs in midfield. His ability to cover ground, so important, which leads to these situations where one switch of play, you're at the Liverpool back four with a midfielder. From the options that Odegaard's got, of course, he could slide in Gabriel Martinelli, he could hit Granit Xhaka, who can then link with the wide player, or alternatively, you go direct wide to Gabriel Jesus. Of course, Odegaard looks to find Saka. I think it's probably the worst option out of them, to be quite honest. I think that you've got Virgil van Dijk defending that channel. You've got Robertson, who's a pretty fast player that could deal with Saka. I think he should potentially go straight to Gabriel Martinelli, but of course, fortune favours the brave. The ball ricochets off Virgil van Dijk, who was poor again for Liverpool this season. He's been a big problem. He's nowhere near the standards of 2019, where he was the best defender in the world by a mile. He looks very sloppy at times. The ball ricochets to Martinelli. Martinelli dribbles again past Virgil van Dijk, then a very smart toe poke finish past Alisson. But I think one of the big things with this is it is a common theme against Liverpool. You switch the play, you create a situation. This is something we spoke about in the Premier League preview, that this is something that Liverpool need to avoid, and it happened once again for Liverpool to take the lead. Moving forward to the goal that Martinelli scored, the reverse fixture at the Emirates from early on in the season, it's exactly the same, where Arsenal moved the ball out. There's a humongous ability to switch the play through a number 10 in Martin Odegaard. You've got a 2v1 on Trent Alexander-Arnold. This time, of course, Odegaard finds Martinelli in behind the defence from an out to in run, and Arsenal take the lead in the game. It's exactly the same goal that Martinelli scored at the Emirates, and it's something that Liverpool really need to work on. It's the same type of play. Pull your left, move your right, cut inside, link through number 10, and then there is a vast number of options for you. In this situation, you could look for Jesus, you could look for either of the two players on the left-hand side. Big problems for Liverpool. And the frustration for Liverpool fans is that the first half, the classic tactical things you do against them were exposed. The other thing what we mentioned previously, the U-bend and exploiting that, was exploited for the second goal that Arsenal scored. And it's simple stuff. You're overloading the base of midfield. We could see Zinchenko inside, Partey's in possession, of course. Odegaard's playing wide on Fabinho, and Xhaka's playing wide on Jordan Henderson. It's just too simple. Not enough pressure on the ball, not enough aggression in the central areas for Liverpool. And you simply get to a position where you've just broken their shape with one pass. And this is the concern for Jurgen Klopp. The mobility of the central midfielders is so important, but they appear to not be recruiting that player at the moment. Very strange. But back to the play, of course, Xhaka is now in a situation where he can simply clip a ball over the top for Martinelli. Again, criticism for Trent here. Yes, maybe he's not kept with the run, but at the same time, there is no pressure on the football. And that's what this U creates against Liverpool. Inability to press high, inability to press when you're in the defensive midfield zone leads to situations where you're in behind. Konate comes over, lovely little jink from Martinelli, clips a perfect ball to Gabriel Jesus to head home. Martinelli's been one of my favourite players in the Premier League this season. His development over the last 18 months has been absolutely fantastic. Arsenal, though, super commanding position. How did they throw it away? So let's dive into how Liverpool got back into the game. I think in the second half, it was the half-time team talk, but also good substitutions that allowed Liverpool to play with more attackers. But before that, of course, Liverpool got back into the game in that first half with a really, really good goal. And it could be a way to attack Arsenal in the future. One of the interesting things that I've picked up from reading Pep Lijnders' book, I recommend reading it, is how they describe some of their central midfielders as outside players, in the sense of Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott operating basically on the outside of the players ahead of them, which gives good tactical variation, gives the ability for the wide player to play more narrow, but also creating that space, but also balance on the pitch. And of course, the outside player for this game was Curtis Jones. I think Curtis Jones had a very, very good game in possession. Just needs to improve his intensity off the ball, and Liverpool have got a fantastic player. I think one of the big things with Curtis Jones, he gets a lot of criticism from Liverpool fans. Number one, he's come through the academy. Number two, he's 23. You know, how many examples of this Liverpool squad do we need to go through that at 23 years old, they were nowhere near where they are at the peak? Henderson is a prime example of that. That's gone on to lift more trophies as Liverpool captain than any other. So, back to the goal. I think one of the nice things that Liverpool did to Arsenal was pull their fullback inside and then utilise that space on the overlap, creating situations where you've basically causing Odegaard to be pulled out and then providing another overlap in the final third to create the goal. And then that's something that you could do to Arsenal. Again, they do press high, they press in an aggressive manner. So, you know, in possession, when you can, you know, push their back four into a narrow position and then utilise that overlap's a really good avenue to get at them. So let's take a look at that. So Arsenal have gone long and Robertson has won the initial contact, heading forward to Diogo Jota in a narrow position. We can kind of see Liverpool's aggressive position in possession, the two wide players operating as kind of the highest players of the pitch. Gakpo dropping off the line as a false nine, Henderson moving slightly higher. But watch the movement of Curtis Jones in this move as playing as a kind of central player that's moving wide, that's overlapping in the final third. So Robertson heads the ball forward and there's some combination play. Jota links with Curtis Jones, who makes a great forward run, which opens up space for that ball into Cody Gakpo. Curtis Jones follows his movement and gets in behind the defence. What I love about this is not only has Ben White been drawn in, which creates space, is that now Curtis Jones is up against Rob Holding, a less mobile defender. Again, I think Arsenal win this game if William Saliba's playing, but he's out injured at the moment. So Curtis Jones, 1v1 with Rob Holding, waits for the support on the overlap from Diogo Jota, which is really, really good play. How he sort of waits for the right moment, then the lovely little flick to set up the goal is absolutely perfect. But I think it's a way to catch Arsenal out, drawing them in that kind of narrowing their back four with your wide forward, creating space for a central midfielder to operate, move out and attack the wide space, pulling in the centre-back. Bit of combination play, then a great goal for Liverpool to be back into the game. And the second goal came from Liverpool loading the box with attackers, and that of course came after Jurgen Klopp's substitutions. I think one of the big things that Mikel Arteta needs to learn from this game is when he looks to create that back five and brings on Kivor, an extra centre-back, or Rob Holding as he's done this season, he's also got to go Zinchenko to Tierney. Tierney is a much better wide defender than Zinchenko, and Zinchenko of course was opened up for the goal. Zinchenko's been great for Arsenal, I'm not criticising him, but Arteta needs to be a little bit faster with his substitutions. So Jurgen Klopp made the changes on 60 minutes. Jota went off, Nunez came on, Thiago came on for Curtis Jones, and then of course the attacking change, Firmino came on for Fabinho. What those substitutions meant for Liverpool is he had more options in the penalty area, more attackers equals more goal-scoring opportunities. We saw the changes with Gakpo dropping into midfield, Firmino coming into a false nine position to link the play, Thiago coming into the base of midfield, and arguably Liverpool attacking the box with 5 players plus their fullbacks, which obviously led to overload in the Arsenal back five and getting Liverpool back into the game. So let's take a look at that second goal that Liverpool scored. Again, a long ball up. Liverpool winning the second ball just outside the box. Let's just freeze for a moment and talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold. He has been opened up so many times. We saw him opened up in that first half for the second goal for Arsenal, the ball in behind him for Martinelli. One of the big things that we need to see is Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield. And yes, there's going to be less time, he's going to play more back to goal, but he can do it. He's one of the best technical players in the Premier League. One of his biggest strengths is attacking. And I do believe playing him higher up will lead to Liverpool winning more games. I think he's fantastic in the press. I think he's got the ability, the technique, the skills, the awareness, the vision to play central midfield. And it should have happened this season at some point. So if we actually have a look at this goal in a sense and kind of thinking it from a tactical perspective, at the moment, Jordan Henderson from right central midfield is in a bit of a right-wing position. Salah is in a central position, and Trent, of course, is in an inside, almost central midfield position as well. What I think about having Trent in these positions, he excels when making underlaps. He really excels in these positions, and that would happen more frequently in central midfield. Think Kevin De Bruyne. So as Henderson receives wide, pulls wide, Trent makes that underlap to the wide position, which creates a great 1v1 for him to have with Zinchenko. The little nutmeg and then the ball to the back post is fantastic. But also Roberto Firmino's run is great. And as we mentioned, Liverpool getting many attackers in the penalty area. They've got Robertson, Firmino, Gakpo, Darwin Núñez and Mohamed Salah. That's 5 bodies in the box attacking across, which obviously leads to the equaliser for Liverpool. But great play from Trent, great underlap, and a great header from Firmino. Scored more non-penalty goals against Arsenal than any other player in Premier League history. A great comeback for Liverpool, but a poor result for Arsenal. They're only 6 points clear of Manchester City now with a game in hand. But of course, the bad news is they've got to play each other at the back end of the season. And in terms of where I think the title race is going to go, I think it's going to be won very, very soon. If we take a look at the remaining fixtures in the Premier League, of course, if we weigh them up, Arsenal have got to face the likes of Man City, Chelsea, Newcastle in their run. City have only really got, you'd probably say Chelsea, Brentford that would cause them problems. I think both teams comfortably beat Brighton, and I think City catch their points up. I think the Leicester City game could be quite interesting for Man City as well. But the humongous game on April the 22nd is one to stick in the diaries. It's going to be an absolute banger. But that's been that for today. Get into the comments below. Do you think Antony will become the player we all believe he can next season? And will Arsenal win the Premier League? I've been Statman Dave. Subscribe if you're new. Check out SofaScore. We'll be back on Friday for the Premier League preview. We'll see you next time.